4 times 2, well, we'll get negative 8k. When I have a negative 4 times a negative 1, what's a negative times a negative? Positive. We should have a positive 4. And then we have plus 9k. We have 2. It's a front and a back. All right, we're going to notice we do have like terms. We have a negative 8k. We have a 9k. Negative 8k plus 9k. So if I have a negative 9, we go in the opposite direction 9 steps. What's bigger, the positive or the negative here? The positive, so our answer should be positive, and it should turn into a positive 1k. We have a positive 1k, which we can write as 1k, or we can write as just 1. Then we have 4 minus 15, which should be a negative 11. And that would be our fully simplified form. Does that make sense? Okay, any other questions? What was that? Okay. He stopped. Okay, the major reason that I wanted the homework done today is because, see how we distribute here? Today we're going to go the opposite direction. We're going to go the opposite direction, which is called factoring. So factoring expression. Factoring expression looks like this. If we're in our simplified form and I ask you to factor, your factor form looks like this. If I was to distribute this 2 to both things, we'd have 2x and a plus 8. We would have had our simplest form. So we are going backwards. We're pulling out a number instead of distributing that number into all the things. So when you factor something, you multiply. When you factor out, you actually divide. We do the opposite of the distributive property. In fact, let's just look here real quick. Let's look how we got here. Campbell? What's the biggest number that goes into 2 and also goes into 8?
4.
4 goes into 2 evenly?
Yes. 2.
No.
2 does.
What goes in before we just shout out answers? Remember, shouting out answers, if we know the answer, awesome. But if we're just shouting out answers just to shout out answers, that's where we get a problem.
What's the answer? What's the question?
The question is, what's the biggest number? So let's not shout anything out because we already realized that we make mistakes if we just shout things out. If I have 2 and 8, what's the biggest number that goes into both 2 and goes into 8? Yes.
2.
2 goes into it. Now, the question is, how many times does 2 go into 2?
1.
1 time. That's why we have a hidden 1 right here. How many times does 2 go into 8?
4.
4 times, because then we have 8 divided by 2 would give me 4. So how we get both of these numbers is basically we get that 4 by doing 8 divided by 2. To get this 1, we did 2 divided by 2. We are just dividing, so we're undoing that multiplication that would happen if we were to distribute. So it's called pulling out a 2. I'm pulling out the 2 out of here, leaving a 1 in its place. I'm pulling out 2 groups from this 8, leaving a 4 in its place. So we are doing the opposite of distributing. So if we look here, here's the steps to factor. First, we must find the greatest common factor of each term. That's the biggest number that goes into a number evenly. It's the biggest number that goes into each of those numbers evenly, both the coefficient and the constant. Then we're going to divide each term by the GFC and leave the remaining factors in the parentheses. Check your work by distributing it. So we can always distribute it to see if we did everything correct. Yeah.
How would you know what to divide by?
So that's going to be up to you. You need to figure out the biggest thing that goes into both of the numbers. Okay? So that could be just taking out your calculator and seeing if 2 goes into it, 4 goes into it, 6 goes into it, seeing what numbers go into each of them. So it could take a little bit of trial and error at times. So we look here. Wardell? Sean, go sit over there. Okay, now we're always looking at our coefficient, the number in front of our x, and we're looking for our constant. So I have two numbers, a 7 and a 7. Now this might seem like a weird question, but what number goes into 7 that also goes into 7?
Well, 7.
7. 7 goes into 7 and 7, right? So we are going to factor out a 7. So basically we're going to put a 7 out front. And inside we'll have an x and a plus, and we just got to figure out what goes in each of those spots. Well, what goes in each of those spots is this number divided by this number. So we have 7 divided by 7 would go here, which should equal 1. And what would go here is 7 divided by 7, which is 1.
What about number 4?
Oh, we'll get to it. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any notes that I wanted to. Now, if we were to check this, we would distribute this 7. We'd have 7x plus 7. That works. So if you're going to check it, you actually just distribute this number and make sure it comes out to the original one. All right, let's look at number 2. Now, don't shout out an answer. Daniel, can you keep your head up? What goes into 4 and also goes into 20? Sean? 2? Is there anything bigger that goes into both of those? Kevin? 4 goes into both of them evenly. 4 goes into 4, and 4 goes into 20. 5 doesn't go into, let's keep our head up and take our hood off.
Oh,
Yes.
Does 5 evenly go into 4?
No.
No. It's got to go into it evenly. If we do the division, it comes out to a decimal, we got a problem. If I type in 4 divided by 5, it's going to be a decimal. So 4 goes into 4 and also goes into 20. So we bring that 4 out front. And once again, we start creating our parentheses. And what goes in each spot is our numbers divided by this 4. So what goes in here is going to be 4 divided by 4, which is 1.
not just put K.
Yes. What goes in this space is going to be 20 divided by 4, which is 5. I think that's where I heard the 5s from. I think you did that 20 divided by 4 and you started looking at 5s. But it's got to be a number that goes into both of them evenly. Okay, let's keep going down. What time do we end at? End at 30. Okay. So we have 5m and we have 15. Once again, do not shout out an answer. I'm looking for a number that goes into 5 that also goes into 15.
5.
No, you can't.
Once again, please don't shout out answers. We're giving everyone a chance to answer. Sean, you got this one? 5 goes into it. You mind picking up your head, please? Okay, so 5 goes into 5 and 15. So now watch the small difference to this one. So now we have 5. We have our m. Make sure you carry down your minus sign. And now we have 2 spaces. One space is going to be for the 5 divided by 5. The other space is going to be for our 15 divided by 5. Well, 5 divided by 5 is 1, but like we said, we could just leave an m here if we want to. I'm just going to put a 1 there. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And once again, you can check your work. 5 times 1 gives me 5m. 5 times 3 would give me 15 back out. All right, once again, please do not shout out any answers. I have 6 and 48. What goes into 6 and also goes into 48? This is where you might want to check stuff. Campbell?
6.
Does 6 go into 48? How many times does 6 go into 48?
8.
8 times, yeah. So 6 works. Thank you guys for actually trying stuff on your calculator. Those that are just sitting there and not doing anything probably change your behavior a little bit. So I know I have 6. I'm going to have R. I have a minus sign. What goes in the first spot is 6 divided by 6, which is 1. And our last spot is going to be the 48 divided by 6, which we said was 8. Not S. 8.
Oh, no, no.
Yep.
Mr. Pabian.
Or is she?
Am I? Wait, what number are we? 48S?
4. I think you have.
S. So where did the S
We need, gentlemen, let's make a wise decision or we're leaving my classroom, okay? Are you okay with that? I'm looking at both of you. Don't do your shifty eyes. If you have a choice, we can either stay in class or we can leave class. What's our choice? Okay. All right, so we forgot about the S, but we can just attach it. That works, because if I distribute the 6, picture this with me. If I distribute the 6, I have 6 times 1, which would give me 6R. I have 6 times 8, which give me 48. And as long as I have my S here, we are good. So make sure you're including all of the variables. All right, 12 and 24. Once again, we are not shouting out answers. What goes into 12 and also goes into 24? Look how 3 people are supporting this whole class. Yeah.
I got 8.
You got 8. 8 goes into 12 evenly?
No. Oh, it's 12. Oh.
Yeah, it's got to go into 12 and 24. 6 works. Is there anything bigger?
12.
12 actually works. So the first thing I'll always try is the first number. Let's see if the first number goes into it. And then we'll start working our way down. So 12 goes into both of these. So we bring out a 12 out front. And remember, the number that goes in front of the W is our 12 divided by 12. The second number is going to be our 24 divided by 12, which is 2. Yeah, we have a 1 and we have a 2. All right, what number goes into 2 and also goes into 9? Campbell, this is your last chance to stay in this classroom, okay? We keep our head up in my classroom. What goes into 2 and also goes into 9?
1.
3. Oh, my fault.
Nothing.
Nothing goes into both of them. 1 does. 1 is the only thing that goes into it. So there's actually no way to factor this. The only way you could factor it is by pulling out a 1. Now, if we go back up to our directions, this is factor each expression. If the expression cannot be factored, write prime. This is prime. Yeah. You cannot put 0. Because this doesn't equal 0. It just means we can't factor it. So if I was told to factor it, you just say it's prime. Or you could put not factorable. Because the only way to factor this would be to pull out a 1, which wouldn't change anything. All right, real quick, we'll do one more and then you'll do the rest. We are not shouting out answers. We're looking at 4 and 10. Does 4 go into 4 and also go into 10?
No.
No. What other number goes into 4, though?
2.
2. Does 2 go into 10?
Yes.
Okay, let's use 2 then. So this is going to be bring out a 2. Now remember, we keep the n and the minus sign. What goes here is going to be our 4 divided by 2. What goes here is going to be our 10 divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And once again, we can check in our head using our distributive property. 2 times 2 would give me that 4n. 2 times negative 5 would give me that negative 10. All right? I would like you to try the last 5. I would like you to try those last 5. We still have like 15 minutes. That gives you like 3 minutes per problem. We should get this done